A former Mostyn Hall butler stole millions of pounds worth of art and jewellery from friends of the royal family. Simon Dalton, who worked as a house manager at Mostyn Hall in Flintshire for 6 years until he was fired in 2007, was jailed for 6 years after pleading guilty to 6 counts of theft from Major Christopher Hanbury and his wife Bridget, using money from the scam to fund his gambling addiction. Manchester Crown Court heard that Dalton of Finchale Drive, Hale, had worked for the Hanburys since 2009, and committed the offences between 2010 and 2012. CCTV catches thief pretending to look for job. Swipe bars charity box. Major Hanbury, a former member of the Queen's Royal Irish Hussars and aide to the Sultan of Brunei, is a family friend of the Prince of Wales, having previously hosted Prince Harry at his Argentinian polo estate. As house manager, Dalton was paid £19,000 a year after tax and lived rent-free in a cottage with his wife on the family's estate in Lovelock House, Berkshire. In December 2012, Dalton left the family and his wife suddenly without explanation, except for a note saying, "I can't take it anymore. I'm going to Scotland to clear my head for a few months." Simon Dalton, 54, butler who stole Picasso and other items from Major Christopher Hanbury, a friend of Prince Charles' family members, made efforts to contact Dalton as they were worried about his well-being, but they heard nothing. The court heard they already had doubts about Dalton, and decided to check their possessions to see if anything had been stolen. They discovered 3 Fabergé eggs were missing, as well as the Picasso and Toulouse-Lautrec paintings, both worth £650,000 each, and the Dillon painting, which is worth £100,000. Police were alerted, and subsequent financial investigations found that he had stolen £725,000 from the Hanburys' bank accounts, of which he gambled more than £570,000. Instead of travelling to Scotland, Dalton had actually fled on a ferry to Lille in France, where he rented a safety deposit box, the Manchester Evening News reported. Spanish artist Pablo Picasso 1881-1973 in front of one of his paintings at home in Cannes. Photo by George Strauss-Gitty. Images. Image. George Strauss-Gitty. A suitcase full of his clothes as well as £1.9 million of jewellery and watches were later recovered from the deposit box. He was arrested on January 3, 2013 after returning to the UK. 3 pieces of artwork, a line drawing by Picasso, a Toulouse-Lautrec, and a piece of art by Bob Dylan, remain missing after Dalton still refuses to reveal their whereabouts. In a victim impact statement, Bridget Hanbury said they are an extremely private family, who had welcomed Dalton and trusted him so they could relax. Now they have had to install 24-hour security, and say their life of peaceful security has now been shattered. Mark Cotter, defending, said Dalton, who served in the army including in Northern Ireland, was a heavy gambler. He said Dalton, who has now separated from his wife, is obsessed by death, having lost close friends and following the death of his father at a young age. Mr. Cotter apologized to the victims on his client's behalf. A drawing by Bob Dylan has not been found. Image. AP Richard Thomas, land agent at Mostyn Estates, fired Dalton, 54, after finding that he had sold 2 Civil War helmets which had previously been on display in the main hall. However, Dalton took the company to an employment tribunal, claiming the helmets were a gift from the late Elizabeth Russell, sister of the late Lord Mostyn, and was found to have been unfairly dismissed. Speaking to the Daily Post after Dalton was jailed, Mr. Thomas said, "From our point of view, at the time we were bitterly disappointed that we were not able to present a case for the tribunal which proved that even if he didn't take the helmets, there was a complete breakdown in trust between employer and employee. If he had been given these helmets, he should have brought it forward to his employers with regards to the circumstances he obtained these helmets and that he intended to sell them." Mostyn Hall, Mostyn. Mr. Thomas, who hired Dalton, said he appeared to be a good employee. He said he interviewed very well and the family liked him. Lady Mostyn liked him, as did other members of the family, and he worked there for 6 years. As far as we could tell, he was a satisfactory employee and we had no issues. He said he had little doubt the items were stolen. Mr. Thomas added that while the sale of the helmets represented a complete breakdown of trust, his recent offending was not in the same league. Share your views about this story using the comment section below.